So for today, I am going to discuss a very major theorist. His contribution in literary theory is extremely immense. So today we are going to talk about Michel Foucault and his contribution. So let's talk about him. Michel Foucault and his major contributions. So this man here is Michel Foucault, and he was a French philosopher and historian. Let's check his background. Michel Foucault, born in 15 October 1926, and he died at June 25, 1984, is a French philosopher and historian. Rejecting the medical studies, his surgeon father envisioned for him. He belonged to that, legacy of surgeons. His whole family belonged to only one profession, and they are all surgeons. Okay. His works consist of insightful exploration of the relationship between power and knowledge. This is his most important contribution. If we talk about him, power and knowledge, that is related with the term discourse. Okay. Foucault work is one of the most influential sources of ideas in the humanities and social sciences. So as I told you that his contribution is immense. If we talk about humanities and social sciences, so let's learn about him. So these are Foucault's major works. If you talk about that mental illness and psychology that he wrote in 1954, after that madness and civilization, another important major work that he wrote or published in 1961, and the birth of the clinic, another one, 1963, and death and the labyrinth, 1963, and the order of things, 1966. This is not a pipe, 1968, and the archaeology of knowledge, 1969. Discipline and punishment or punish, एक और major work by Michel Foucault, and that's published in 1975. And another one, the most controversial, I believe, the history of sexuality, 1976 to 2018. The book published in many volumes. Okay, so let's go further. So Foucault, he came across with Nietzsche's book Untimely Meditations. So the one thing that inspired him a lot is that it is Nietzsche's book, The Untimely Meditations, and the book contains an essay called as, and that book contains an essay that called as On the Uses and the Abuses of History for Life. This man, as I talk about in my previous lecture, about Friedrich Nietzsche, that his book Untimely Meditations, and that book contained an essay, and the name of that essay is On the Uses and the Abuses of History for Life. That man, Friedrich Nietzsche, inspired him a lot. So in this essay, Foucault finds that how academics poisoned our senses. So he's talking about that all the convention, rules, methods, that are implied by our ancestors. It means that notions and thoughts poisoned us, our senses. That how history should be read and taught. Okay, means to dig out. It means to dig out from the past new ideas, concepts, and principles, which helps us to lead a better life in our own time. It means that history is not about revising. History is not all about revising. It means to gain something from it, to lead a better life. This is one of the most important contribution of Michel Foucault if you talk about literary theory. Okay, then we go further. Okay, so here is his first book, the most important book, Madness and Civilization, a history of insanity in the age of reason, and the book was published in 1961. Okay, this is his one of the most important books. Okay, so let's check the work from which he gained recognition of or named as his masterpiece called as Madness and Civilization. So this is his first book from which he got that recognition or that international status. Okay. Standard view is that we now treat people with mental illness in so much more of a humane way. So he's talking about mental people that, and he take many examples of previous ages. For instance, if we talk about Rensa, so let's look about it. Or he has fed up with treatments of the patients in modern world. For instance, put them into hospital or by giving them drugs, etc. So he's against that treatment, against modern treatment. So according to him, that all the doctors these days just looked patients more as a set of organs, those livers and kidneys. He said that the organs and the human are two different entities. Organs and human organs and humors are the two different entities. But we treat them humans like a bad manners. Okay. So here, for instance, put them into hospital or by giving them drugs. So he's against that thing that by giving patients drugs, it's not a big case, but a bad manner. So, and he mentioned in his book that in Rensa period was far better for the mad, and they are treated as a special person or symbol of wisdom rather than crazy. So you can see that, he take that example of Rensa, and he described that in Rensa period was far better for the mad people, because in the Rensa period they are a kind of symbol of wise or symbol of wisdom rather than crazy. Okay, they are not considered to be crazy. They are considered to be wise or something sagacious type of entity during Renaissance period. Mentally ill people demonstrated the limits of reason. They are revered in many circles and allowed to wander freely. He's still talking about Renaissance, that in Renaissance period, mentally ill people demonstrated the limits of reason. So there is a wit and intellectualism. If we talk about Renaissance period, mentally ill people treated there with a great honor or with a great prestige. Okay, they are revered. Okay, in many circles and allowed to wander freely. They are revered. They are allowed to wander freely. Okay, but after the 17th century, these kinds of people are not called sane. They taken away from their families and locked up in asylums and face their tortured for being a different person. For being a different person. If he is talking about today's generation, today's time, that in today's time we can see that mentally ill people are treated badly. They are, by putting them, we put them into all of them into asylums. Okay, so this is his theory. And right now we are talking about birth of the clinic and archaeology of medical perception. The book published in 1963. In this book, he targets medicine more broadly. Medicine has become more humane with time. He portrayed doctor of the 18th century as a sinister figure. Okay, he portrayed doctor as a sinister figure. He's talking about 18th century. A double system of observation is employed in order to properly diagnose the patient. He's against that diagnosis system. Okay. The physician uses his knowledge to objectively obscure the patient and look for telling signs in order to properly diagnose and treat whatever illness is ailing the patient. To check his illness, they just diagnose the patient. As I told you that for doctors it is just a set of organs, but for Foucault, human and male organs or human or female organs are something different. It's a different entity. Okay, so let's go further. The concept of medical gauge. Okay, it means a dehumanizing attitude that looked at the patient just a set of organs, not a person. Okay, dehumanizing kind of attitude of doctors. They look a patient a kind of a set of organs, not a person. Under the medical gaze, merely a malfunctioning kidney or liver, not a person to be considered as a whole entity. You know, they are still focusing on those uh, malfunctioning things, you know, kind of kidney or livers. You know, Foucault said it's a kind of a dehumanizing system. Okay, so that's why he called that concept the medical gaze. Okay. Several writers have introduced the idea that Foucault clinical gaze or medical gaze is a process of objectification and therefore harmful to the patients. Okay, or patient. You know, they see patient more just like an object. Okay, not as a person or a human. So as you can see in both the works, he's just criticizing the modern, you know, diagnosis system. Okay, and he also portrayed doctors as a doctor or physicians as a sinister figure. Okay, let's go further. And his another work, Discipline and Punish, the birth of the prison, and the book was published in 1975. And here he's talking about the state punishment. State punishment. Prison and punishment system of the modern world are disciplined, and punish is a history of the modern penal system. You know, he is criticizing the modern penal system. In past, convicts' body could become a focus of sympathy and admiration, and the executioner become the locus or symbol of the same shame. Okay, ठीक है. He's talking about discipline and punishment. You know, in modern society, how a person should treated. You know, he's treated like a bad. He's treated like a bad manners, or you can say that you know, all the things he used, the sinister figure, you know, all the terms he used about the doctors. Okay. Modern prison system by Foucault. इसको पढ़ते हैं, चलिए आइए. He said that in modern prison system, everything happened behind private locked gate. You know, everything happened behind private locked gate. One could no longer see and therefore resist state power. You know, with that theory, he gave that concept of panopticon or panopticism, we could say. Okay. We will talk about it further, and let's talk about it. Examines the shift from public execution to the prison system as a reflection of changes in power relations and social control. Okay, so examine the shift from public executions to the prison system as a reflection of changes in power relations and social control. He's talking about that in during previous ages that most human suffer from that thing that call the public executions. But that thing is now changed. Still, we focus that thing, but in a different way. You know, by putting criminals into jails and other things. This is the main theory. Okay, Foucault gave a concept of docile bodies. You know, this is another major concept of Michel Foucault. What are docile bodies? Individual shaped and trained through disciplinary practices. Okay, you know. All the institutions, schools, hospitals, you know, they are going to teach you how to behave. Okay, so individuals shaped and trained through disciplinary practices and surveillance. Okay, becoming obedient and useful within societal structures. Okay, bodies. What is docile bodies? Bodies that function in factories, ordered military regiments, and school classrooms. You know, these all things teach us how to behave. You know, if you talk about a military guy or military person, you know, they just know one thing, that how to follow discipline. You know, same in schools, how to behave. Okay, he's talking about that things. Okay, let's go further. So here is his famous theory. I think one of the most major contribution of Foucault's, if we talk about literary theory particularly, the theory of panopticon. So panopticon is a concept that was drawn from Jeremy Bentham's idea about surveillance. Bentham had a basic setup of a panopticon that included a central tower that was surrounded by cells. You know, I have a picture of that. Let me show you. The central tower had a watchman, while the cells had prisoners. These prisoners could be translated as children or workers based on what the building was being used for. These works are taken from Foucault's. These lines are taken from Foucault's work. So let's go further. Panopticism. Okay, modified their behavior to suit the requirements of the prison to avoid punishment. Foucault panopticon is being implemented in the modern society with an aim of controlling the behavior of people. How to control the behavior of the people? By telling them that this is wrong and this is right. You have to follow it. This is called discipline. Okay. For instance, you can take the example of dystopian novel by George Orwell, 1984. There is a person in George Orwell novel, 1984. Who is mostly tortured by the government. Okay, and he cited that there is a big quote, or there is a big character, and I think major character is Big Brother is watching you. Big Brother is watching you. So Big Brother is a character. Okay. So, like you can take the example of like a dictatorship. Okay, a dictator, a kind of dictator, who is watching all your actions and tell you how to behave and how to perform under norms. That kind of dictatorship. Okay, so here is a Big Brother character in 1984, written by George Orwell. Okay, so chaliye. So this is panopticon. This is the main cell here. From here is the watchman, and here around these cells you can see all the peoples, and the watchman here watching all of them. It means that you are under surveillance, and I am watching all your actions, what you're gonna do, and if you are against the norms or against the human behavior, then you would be punished, or you will receive punishment. Okay, this is panopticon. Here you can see the watchman and these building, and here you can see the little rooms. Here you can see the people or other person, and that being watched by that person, the watchman. And he is noticing each and everything. Okay, so this is the theory of panopticon. Okay. What is panopticon? The concept panopticon is first used by Jeremy Bentham. Okay, an optical instrument combining the telescope and microscope. This is the definition of the dictionary. A circular prison built with the cells arranged radially so that a guard at a central position can see all the prisoners. So let me go back. So here you can see there. In those rooms you can find all the prisoners, and here in that tower you can see that there is a watchman who is taking control all of the things. He's looking at each person. Okay, so this is panopticon. It means that you are under surveillance. Okay, if you want to compare these theories with modern world, with modern movement, or with postmodern era, then you can find that all these CCTV cameras, all these CCTV cameras will also teach us that we are under surveillance. We are capturing your norms, we are capturing your actions. Okay, if you just do any bad behavior, then you could face that punishment. Okay, you can compare it with postmodern era. So let's go back. Panopticon. Okay, a circular prison built with cells arranged radially so that a guard at a central position can see all the prisoners. The way in which discipline and punishment work in modern society. Okay, you are under surveillance. So another major concept of Michel Foucault, the concept of discourse. Okay, Foucault introduced the idea that knowledge and power are intertwined. His famous work, or his another famous concept, genealogy. Okay, genealogy. Okay, power isn't repressive but also productive. Power isn't repressive but also productive. It shapes what is considered true or false. Okay, it shapes what is considered true or false. So another major contribution, he is saying that there is a connection between power and knowledge. Okay, and it is what it is productive, and with production it can consider what is true or false. Okay, normal or abnormal and influence how people behave and think. Okay, the simple matter, it's if you talk about discipline and punishment, or discipline or punish. He is telling us that I am going to tell you how you have to behave or how you should behave. Normal or abnormal and influences how people behave or think. Okay. A discourse is more than just language or communication. It is a system of knowledge that shapes how we think, speak, and act in the world. Okay. What is discourse? A kind of knowledge, how we think, speak, and act in the world. This is the concept for discourse. Okay, here is Foucault's major lines from his major work. Schools serve the same social function as prison and mental institution to define, classify, control, and regulate people. Michel Foucault. Okay, schools serve the same social function as prison and mental institutions to define, classify, control, and regulate people. So he's talking about control and regulating people. So what we got from this lecture is that Foucault is talking about that madness and civilization. He's talking about the mental ill people, that how they are treated with that vicious manner by other people. Okay, if you talk about modern scenario, and in Renaissance period, you can see that they are the symbol of wisdom. And if you talk about birth of the clinic, where he talk about patients, he said that patients are not just merely a set of organs. A patient is a single entity. There is a big difference between body and set of organs. Okay. After that, we come on to his another concept, discourse, where he defined that what is power and knowledge. Okay. So power is very productive, and the power and knowledge, they are both going to decide that how we should behave, speak, or think. So these things for all. Thank you very much.